Hi, this is your instructor, Teresa Pelkie. Welcome to our class.
Let's continue with our class. We will learn how to write JavaScript using the JavaScript syntax. JavaScript uses the dot syntax. And here is an example, window.alert. We are using the window object and calling the alert method. Notice there is a semicolon. You will always have a semicolon at the end of a statement. The alert method is part of the window object, which is essentially the browser. And what it does, it gives us a message box. It is a good way to test variable values and expressions. Here is an example of the alert method without being tied into the window object. Because the window object is the top level object, we do not need to use it. We can just say alert. Inside the parentheses, we have a literal expression enclosed in quotations. It would output whatever is in these parentheses to the browser in the message box, as we see here. Another way of writing JavaScript syntax. Here we have the head section, and now inside the opening and closing script tag we have the alert with Hello World. So here we see the script tag enclosing our JavaScript inside the opening and closing head tags. And here we see what it would look like in the browser. This is something that you don't want to use. Here we have the opening and closing body tag. Inside an HTML element, we have an Onclick event handler. This was used in the 1990s. It is not a good idea to use this because it mixes JavaScript and HTML. You will see this in people's web pages and in textbooks, and I am just explaining to you the history of it. It would still launch the alert. Another example of traditional JavaScript located inside the body, inside the opening and closing head script tags, is the ability to use document.write. This is the document object, which essentially is the page. And notice that we are inside the body. The write method, very similar to the alert, it takes a value, and here it is a literal. The only difference is it will appear on the web page rather than in a message box. Here again, because it is inside the body, we don't want to use this in today's world. Traditional JavaScript was replaced with the document object model. This allows us to write to the page using unobtrusive JavaScript. Remember, unobtrusive JavaScript means that the JavaScript is separate from the HTML. So rather than use document.write, we can now use the document object model. We will learn more about the document object model later on, but we will learn some basics today. Here we have, in our head section, in the opening and closing script, and I have omitted the ending tags for purpose of brevity, the document object again, .getElementById. This is a method of the document object, and what it allows us to do is to make a reference to something on that web page. This is the way that we can access something on the web page. This is a very popular use of JavaScript, even in the industry today. Notice the way that this method is spelled. Capital E, capital B, capital I. This is our camel case syntax. Now, how do we reference this? In the body, in our paragraph, we have an ID attribute and a value. And notice it says get element by ID, so we can reference the element by virtue of its ID attribute with this statement, which should have a semicolon at the end of it. I apologize. If you omit the semicolon, nothing will happen. It is always a good idea to do it because it is proper syntax. So this is what we're going to be using until we learn jQuery. Here is an example of using document.getElement by ID. Now we have a lot of extra code here, and let me explain why. When the web page loads, the browser reads the code from the top down. If it were to read this statement, getElement by ID heading 1, it would not know where heading 1 is because it hasn't read down further yet. So what we need to do is we need to hold the JavaScript from being read until the page and the HTML has been read first. We do this by calling the onload event of the window object. The onload event means that it will not run whatever is following here until the page has loaded. We are calling an anonymous function, and in the curly braces is the statement to be executed. We will learn about functions later, so don't let this confuse you. Here is our statement, document.getElement by ID heading 1. We're referring to this element down here. Notice there is nothing in between the opening and closing tags. We have a dot inner HTML. This is the inner HTML property of this object. The inner HTML property means whatever is in between the opening and closing tag is HTML and text. So we have the equals hello world. So hello world is being assigned to the inner HTML property. Essentially it is being placed right here, and this is how we can output hello world to the web page without using document.write. Another thing I would like to point out, when you're putting quotations around a literal, it can be single or double, but it has to be consistent. Alright, another option, rather than calling an anonymous function, is calling a named function. We have the same scenario in our body. There's our h1 ID heading 1. Here is our window.onload statement. It's calling a function called init, a very popular function name that is called when the page loads. So here is our function defined, and again we will learn how to do this. Our curly brace, ending curly brace, the exact same statement that we saw before. So in the previous example we're calling an anonymous function, here we're calling a named function. And we are outputting hello world. So what I would like you to learn this week is how to use an alert. It is a great way to test and debug your code. I would like you to learn how to use an alert to output a message. I would like you to learn how to use the document object model to write to the page. I have sample code on the public box folder to illustrate the points in this tutorial. Thank you.